We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Saturday by the time you hear this. We're recording it on Friday afternoon. And as so often the case, Ed is with us. And God damn it, Ed, I'm glad you're here because there's so much shit going on. I need a reasonable mind with some sense and some knowledge of history as to what the fuck we got going on. So, welcome, Ed.
Thank you. And then just to pitch my own stuff, if you want to go on my TikTok right now, I've got an explanation of how this is not new, having armed thugs running around the country preying on people. That this happened during the labor movement, and I give you the history on that, and maybe a little hope at the end too.
Well, that's good. And tell them where they can find you.
I'm reeling in the years. That's REALIN apostrophe IN the years at TikTok. And
At Holler Troll.
that holler troll on TikTok is what I meant to say. You know
And
better than I
that's,
do.
yeah. And Holler Troll spelled HOLLERTROLL.
Yeah,
So, we might as well talk to the point at hand. Now we're still in the mix right now as we're recording this. By the time this goes up, uh, the deadline for the Epstein files to be released is at
midnight.
midnight tonight.
Mhm.
Midnight last. Okay, it's Saturday when you're listening to it. Midnight Saturday morning was the deadline.
Yes.
Um, and at this point in time, we're hearing Todd Blanche, that brilliant lawyer, saying, "Well, it may take a week, it may take a month. We're going to have 100,000 coming out." This isn't surprising to anybody that they're going to hedge and fuck around with this.
Absolutely. And if I were well, it was Congress who passed the law. I don't know who's supposed to enforce it. Is there in somebody enforcing it? But at any rate, they've had this time. As a matter of fact, they've had years to put
Yeah.
all this crap together, right? I mean, it's been together for years. They keep talking about new information. There is no new information, okay? Um, except what's being released by the Epstein estate. All right,
All right.
that's new. Some of it, the pictures and so forth, which the Democrats are releasing, which I'm glad to say. But they've had this stuff forever. And they've been trying to, they're redacting crazy like crazy. They're probably destroying documents. We don't know what they've done to it. I am not optimistic that we'll get the true story out of this or that everything will be released. I am not in the least optimistic that will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm just going to read what it says here. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche seemed to suggest the Justice Department will not release its full investigative files on late sex predator Jeffrey Epstein on Friday, despite facing a deadline. In an interview with Fox and Friends, Blanche said, "I expect that we're going to release several 100,000 documents today, and those documents will come in all different forms, photographs, and other materials associated with all the investigations into Mr. Epstein." And this is pretty much what I expected. Now, in the bill that they passed, it says very specifically you can't redact. I mean, you can redact the names of victims and stuff like that, but you can't redact people for embarrassment or exposure or famous people. So it's very specific on what they can redact. And that's the point. When we finally see some of these things, it'll be interesting to see what they've done and what they omitted. I mean, there's enough people who know what's there. If they've done some egregious shit, taken certain things out, or omitted some things, people are going to know. And the other thing, again, it's all a matter if they follow rules. But if they redact things, they have to have another file that states what they redacted and why.
Yeah.
So this is not a fucking easy job for them to do this if they do it properly. But as you and I know, probably won't do it properly.
Well, we've already heard they had like scores of FBI agents in there redacting shit, deleting Trump's name here and there and all of that. I don't know that if that's true or not. It's something I've heard, and they said, and the people who have said it seem to have some confidence that it happened. Who
Yeah,
knows?
it could very well have happened, but here's what always gives me some warmth in my heart. If Donald Trump is involved, If the administration is involved, they're always going to fuck it up.
It's
So if they did it,
incompetence. You know,
they probably did it badly, and it'll be probably be obvious.
I long for the day when I used to see cabinet officials talking to the press and having some idea of what their position was about and what they were supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
In this administration, there is not one capable person, not one who understands their job, who understands what they're supposed to do, who understands how government works.
Right.
Or if they do understand it, they are busily trying to subvert it. It is the most criminal, the most incompetent, and the most downright, I can't even come up with the adjective. I'll work on it, but it is, let's just go with incompetent and criminal administration in the history of the country.
Well, and that's a good point. And I've said this about Donald Trump too, or anybody else that comes in here when people say we need a businessman, we need somebody from the outside. That's well and good, but the government is a big motherfucking machine. It's heavy machinery. If you don't know how to run the heavy machinery, the fucker ain't going to work. And that's what we're seeing with Donald Trump. Now, in his first term, he had some people around him that knew kind of how the government works. So it was a little more functional. It has still had Donald Trump at the top. Now, in this situation, he couldn't get any of those people to work for him. So they're all incompetent fucks. So we got a bunch of people driving heavy machinery that are either drunk or don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Exactly right. I mean, when I was a kid, a CEO was a guy who lived in the same town I did. He had a big house, he had nice cars and so forth, but he went to church with regular people. His kids went to
Yeah.
school, at least through elementary school, before they packed them off to military academies and finishing schools and stuff. But they were part of the community, and to a certain extent, they reflected the community and the community's values and so forth. Now that with all the consolidation, a CEO is some guy who's not in the same state you are, maybe not in the same country you are, does
Right.
not give a shit about you or your community in any way. And that's what we're up against here. Businessmen, fuck that. No, that's the last thing I want. Because a businessman today is a predatory capitalist who has one thing in mind, and that's profit and more profit and more profit, and not one iota of care or compassion about the people that actually produce the wealth.
Well, that's exactly right. If you put everything down to money and how to make money, then maybe a businessman might be the right person in certain circumstances. That's assuming he is above board and not a crook. And we have a number of crooks in this government. But in our government, there's a lot of taking care of other people less fortunate, people that are disabled, people that are just in the middle class. The job of government is to protect and take care of those people. So
Exactly.
hiring a
Remember,
businessman to do that makes no fucking sense.
exactly. We are the government. And
Right.
remember that the president is not a king. He is the chief executive. What does an executive do? An executive brings together a team that works for the betterment of all. That's what an executive does. He doesn't rule by fiat.
Right.
He doesn't rule at all. He rules by consensus, if anything. He brings people together with good ideas and knowledge, and they put their best foot forward in every case to do the most good for the most people, not to a favored minority, which is what has been going on since Reagan. That everything good in the government has been geared toward this tiny minority of billionaires, millionaires, now billionaires, soon to be trillionaires, that keep sucking up money. That's what they do.
Absolutely. Now, when people hear this, we'll be beyond the midnight deadline to have all the Epstein files released. And that's what the law says. And make no mistake, it's a law. It passed the House, it passed the Senate. Donald Trump, the president, signed it. It is a fucking law. There is no two ways about it. They are to release all files by midnight this past night. Um, And it doesn't sound like they're going to do that. Now, Ro Khanna and some other people in the House said, we're going to hold your feet to the fire. The law is the law. You could get contempt of court. You could get other legal proceedings. You can get impeachment. Now, whether they'll actually push that issue if not all the files are put out, I don't know. What do you think is going to happen? People will know by the time they hear this, but what do you think is going to happen between now and midnight tonight? What are they going to release? What kind of excuses are they going to make? Because you know they're coming.
Well, they've already kind of signaled that we can't do it all because it's just overwhelming or whatever, their excuse is for not releasing everything all at once. That's quite frankly what they should do. And I think that's pretty much what the law says. So, they're gonna throw up these defenses that will be slapped down, and eventually they'll release the redacted files, whatever they may be. Um, it will serve, as it has been for some time, as a distraction to what the really bad shit that's going on. And believe me, I sympathize with the victims here of Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. I believe Donald Trump was far more involved in exploiting these young women. I take that back. These children,
Yeah.
these children, that he was far more involved in exploiting them, and that's a mild word, brutalizing, raping them. And I do believe his business was part of it, just like Jeffrey Epstein's was. I think they were partners even. I mean, his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, tried to portray him and Epstein as a couple of young playboys messing around, right? Well, no, Jeffrey Epstein is a convicted sex offender,
Yeah.
and Trump should be. That's what they are. Don't get this playboy shit. The ultimate playboy, remember, was Hugh Hefner, who was a fucking monster. Look him
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Well, I, 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 I always, whenever I have issues that I have to deal with, I take the big one, worry about that first and foremost, and then I go on down the line. And I think we can do this with this Epstein case. We want everything revealed. We want everybody accountable for the crimes they committed. But I think first and foremost, we've got to get to the point where we take Donald Trump down, tie him to the situation, expose him for what he is, get him out of the way. Because once Donald Trump and this DOJ is out of the way, that whole file will fucking pour out because there's nobody there to hold it back. There will be some accountability, but we've got to get Donald Trump out of the way in order for the rest of the stuff to flow the way it needs to flow.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that nature takes care of that for us. I'm still looking at Christmas now. Uh, if not
Ever
that,
the optimist.
ever the optimist. That's right. I think room temperature's coming
Yeah.
anytime now. I watched him on TV the other night. Well, I didn't. I'll be honest. I watched clips of it later on. I couldn't stand that. Quite frankly, the bane of my life is that I have to hear his voice and see his face pretty much every day. And I can't remember any president where that was ever the case before Trump. And even
Right.
when he wasn't president, I had to hear his voice and see his face every day. He's been omnipresent for the better part of 10 years of my life. And even before that, he was on TV a lot and so forth. But I want him gone. I want him not even a memory. I want the stain erased
You know,
as
I,
much as possible.
I had a different experience because I can't watch Donald Trump for any extended period of time. My wife will come to me and go, let's turn on Fox and see what they're saying. I can't even fucking do that. I can't listen to the bullshit. But when I watched Donald Trump, I found myself sitting there the full 17 minutes watching Donald Trump. Okay.
Yeah.
And I worried about my stomach getting upset but I took great joy in watching that. I found it very entertaining and very informative because what I saw with this guy, the way he was talking, the way he was delivering this and what he was saying, this motherfucker's terrified. He's terrified because he sees what's going on all around him and he doesn't understand it. He's confused. He's a fucking genius, but everything is going to shit. So what do? Well, I just tell everybody it's great and they'll believe me because I'm a magnificent orator. But he knows that's not working. So this guy is flailing. This guy is struggling right now. And I took a lot of joy in watching that.
Yeah, well, you can see that. I mean, he ran his greatest hits again. I
Yeah.
inherited a mess. If you go back to headlines just a few short weeks, even well months, let's say, before the election, everybody was saying the American economy was a miracle, that it
Yeah.
was leading the world out of COVID. Okay, we know
Right.
what was going on there. I know what I was paying for groceries back then. I know what I'm paying now. I know what I was paying for gas. Yes, inflation went up high for a little while, but Biden got it back down to 3% before he left office. And that's what Trump received. Everything he could say about it was the highest in for the history of the country, which is bullshit. We know it was around World War I. It was much higher. But at the same time, we know he did not get a mess. He got a fully functioning economy that was headed in the right direction until he started fucking around with his dumbass tariffs and all his other bullshit and spending money that he doesn't have on idiocy like chasing down contributing members of our society who happen to be undocumented and getting rid of them, destroying industries. Construction industry is not going to recover soon.
Yeah.
Try to get your roof done. Go ahead. See
But
how long it takes.
I think people need to understand when Donald Trump says that inflation was so high under Joe Biden, you got to kind of qualify that and clarify that.
Mm-hmm.
Inflation under Joe Biden was high right after he took office because we were
Yeah,
coming out of COVID. COVID was caused by Donald Trump because he did nothing. So
right.
while Biden had high um, like the first year, he probably had high inflation. From that point on till the day he left office, it was steadily going down. It was steadily going down. So he fixed. Donald Trump's a year into his fucking term. He's still trying to blame Biden. Biden, 6 months into his term, it's Biden's fault too. When Donald Trump created one of the greatest pandemic experiences in this country, killed 1 million people. Yeah,
Yeah.
inflation was high, but not because of Biden. The only thing Biden did is bring it down from where Donald Trump fucking left it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so watching him spew this crap, which I can't believe anybody is buying. I mean, even a MAGA has to be looking at their grocery bill and saying,
Yeah.
I can't afford this shit. I can't afford my rent to go up yet again. I mean, here he's claiming he's giving every soldier $1,776. This is bullshit. This is money that was already appropriated, a bump for soldiers. He's claiming that he did it. It was Congress who did it. He's just, fudging the number a little bit. And what is that? $1,776. That's not even rent for a month for a lot of people in the
And
military in this country.
and that's what the money was intended for, is basic allowance housing.
Yeah,
Basically, they're saying we're not paying enough for housing, so we're going to give you a little help, which isn't much help anyway. And Donald Trump does what he does. Anytime he sees somebody succeeding, he wants to hop on that fucking bandwagon and try to get credit for it. And that's
yeah,
what he did in this situation. Oh, they'll never know. I'll tell them I'm giving them a gift. Well, I would presume that most military people knew that they were getting that
yeah.
$1,700 when it was passed through Congress, as it should have been. So when Donald Trump says that we're going to give them another $1,700, my first thought was, oh, I'm getting an extra $1,700. No, we're just using you for publicity. You're not getting any more, but I'm taking credit for something that's already done. That's so classic Donald Trump.
Absolutely. Then he goes to drug prices where he claims he negotiated, which he did nothing with anybody, to that he's reduced these drug prices by 200, 400, 600%, which even an idiot can just ask AI, Chat GPT or whoever about that. What happens when you lower a price by 600%? And it will tell you that's not mathematically possible. If you lower a price by even 100%, then it's free, right?
Right, right.
But he keeps doing that. And why did the news media who are reporting on this don't stop and say, we have to point out to you that this is impossible. If you reduce a price by even 100%, that makes it free. If you reduce it by 600%, that means that the drug company would have to pay you a lot of money to take their drug. Say that once, say it twice, say it every time he says it, and point out to people that he's a big, fat, sloppy, stupid liar.
Exactly. Well, this is what I've always said from 2015 to now. If there had been one journalist who did the job of a journalist, Donald Trump would not be president today because somebody would have pushed him. What Donald Trump does is he attacks reporters like, you're a piggy, you're stupid, I can't believe we're going to kick you
Only
out and all
women
that
because
stuff.
he's afraid of men.
Yeah, that's probably true. But this is how narcissists and bullies win. Somebody pushes back and he rears up in their face and threatens them, and then they back down. I've told people before, I'm not a journalist by any stretch of the imagination. Uh, I'm not the best debater in the world, but I guarantee you, if you put me in a room with Donald Trump for 15 minutes, I'll have that fucker crying when he's done because I'm going to be asking questions that he can't or won't answer. And if he doesn't have a choice but to sit there and take it, it would destroy him because that's what narcissists do. When they can't control the narrative, when they can't divert or they can't even run away, they just fucking implode. And that's what somebody needs to do to Donald Trump. They need to press him more. When he talks louder, you talk louder, and you keep pushing. And eventually that fucker will back down because he's a coward.
Yeah, exactly. And the same is true for others. I mean, I hadn't seen this guy in a while. I saw Ted Cruz on some show yesterday,
Yeah.
and he was echoing Trump's points, just bald-faced lying to the camera, to the interlocutor who was not going after him, pointing out that what he was saying was a big fat lie. So we have to hold all of these people accountable. Every one of them that has enabled Trump, they really should be in prison, but they should at least not be in office.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. We don't have, I bet you can go through every department in this administration, and there are people within those departments that are good, that have been career people, but the leaders, every one of the leaders is incompetent. I mean, we've got Kash Patel, we've got Pam Bondi, we got Pete Hegseth, we got Marco Rubio. Just right down the board, they're all fucking incompetent. And if they
Yeah,
aren't incompetent, like to say with Marco Rubio, he may have the potential to be able to do the job he's involved with, but he's so complicit and so compliant with Donald Trump and just so willing to do with what Donald Trump does, inevitably he does the wrong thing.
well, and his job has been usurped by an unelected relative of Trump, Kushner.
Right, right.
He is, in effect, the Secretary of State now. He's the one who negotiates. He's the one who goes out as Trump's representative, and everybody knows he's the real one. Then Rubio is just is a figurehead. The dangerous one, of course, is Robert F. Kennedy,
Yeah.
who is just insane. I mean, you know that there are going to be kids who die of measles because they were not inoculated. Measles was gone. We didn't have to worry about it anymore. It was a defeated illness like smallpox, and that one will be back too. You watch.
Yeah. It's funny as an
Whooping
actor,
cough.
yeah,
Sorry.
whooping cough too. Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
you know, RFK Jr. is married to Cheryl Hines, who was on
Yeah.
Curb Your Enthusiasm and stuff. And I always liked her. I thought she was funny. I thought she was cute and all that stuff. But now she's just taken aback how she doesn't understand why her friends in Hollywood don't like her anymore. Well, because you're fucking sleeping with a monster.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like Sarah Ferguson. I used to like her. I thought she was cool. I thought she was a relatable royal.
Yeah.
And she's still with Randy Andy. I don't understand that shit.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, and she went to Epstein's Island too.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
I mean, when you're talking about people that, well, I was going to ask you, since we're talking about the release of the files and we're
Yeah.
waiting to see what happens or doesn't happen, the interesting thing is these photos that are coming out of the oversight committee by way of the Epstein estate. Um, I feel like these things that are coming out a bit at a time are basically a taunt from the oversight committee to the
Yeah,
DOJ. Okay, we
yeah,
got some. Oh, don't forget, we got some more. And they steadily start getting worse. You know, you had the
yeah.
emails, which were compelling. Then the
Hmm.
video was just kind of weird. And now these most recent photos, they're starting to get a little more disturbing. I mean, there's pictures of women's body parts with quotes from the book Lolita, which is
Hmm.
sick in its own right. Um, you got pictures with famous people. You know, you get Bill Gates. You get the people that he's been Steve Bannon, but fucking Noam Chomsky. The
What
fuck is
it,
with Noam Chomsky?
well, you never know. I mean, a lot of people who flew on the planes didn't necessarily go to the island or weren't necessarily involved in um, the hanky panky, the rape of children. I don't.
Yeah,
We have to call it that. We have to keep saying that
it
because
is.
otherwise, it's not underage young women. It's children, and it's rape. Okay. Um, I will. What is Bill Gates' wife's name? Ex-wife, I should say. I give
Uh,
her a lot of credit because as soon as she found out he'd been to the island, she dumped his ass.
yeah.
Right. That's the proper response. Okay.
Well,
But
that's an excellent point. When you talk about Noam Chomsky or whoever else was on the plane, um, that may not have been involved in the nefarious actions or the criminal activity that he is, that's well and good. But you knew who he was.
yeah.
You knew what he did. Even though you didn't do it, the fact that you hang out with this person or associate with this person, that's a problem for me. I mean, if I meet somebody who's a murderer or a burglar or a kidnapper or whatever, I'm not hanging out with a motherfucker, no matter how friendly and rich they are.
Well, and this is the thing. I mean, look who else is there? Bannon, Woody Allen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I got to say this. Woody Allen was one of my favorite filmmakers, especially, his middle period. He was losing me again toward the end there with some of it, but the one he did about Rome, the one he did Paris After Midnight, a couple of my favorite films. But there is no denying this guy's creepy.
He's a
Um,
weirdo.
and there have been allegations from, um, I mean, number one, he married his daughter.
His stepdaughter, yeah.
Yeah, and but
Or
his
adopted daughter.
right, and the other kids also implicated him. So this guy's creep. I mean, he's still making movies in Europe. We don't see them. I will not see them. But at the same time, if he's there, that's kind of an indictment of everybody who's there with him, don't you think?
Absolutely. And you know, I think this is the reason we're seeing this has nothing to it has everything to do with being wealthy and having power and
Yeah.
believing you can do whatever the fuck you want. I mean, you think about that. Put anybody in a situation where you may want to do something, but you're worried that you could get in trouble. But now you're rich and famous and know you can cover your ass and would be completely disregarded. Would you still do the criminal or creepy thing if you knew you weren't going to be fucking held accountable? There's a lot of people that fucking would, and clearly a lot of them hung out with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, this is true. And what we have to look at here is I saw Cash Patel in front of the being grilled by Congress.
You know, it's either
And,
oversight or judicial committee.
yeah,
Yeah.
one of the two. And someone asked him flat out, um, we know that Jeffrey Epstein had this criminal enterprise where he was trafficking these young women to very rich men. Why have you not indicted any of them? And
Excellent
he
point.
said there was no evidence. There was no evidence that he trafficked any of these young women, any of these children to anyone else, which is total bullshit. It is total 100% bullshit. You know how I know? We have their testimony. We have
Right.
the testimony of all these women, now women, who were children, who were abused, who were raped, who were sexually exploited by famous men, and for all I know, women who had money, and none of them has been called into account. they should have been indicted solely on the testimony of the women.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is here's what we know for sure. Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah.
They are both have gone through court. They've been prosecuted. They've been convicted of child sex trafficking. That's what
Yes.
they've been convicted of. They could
Hmm.
not be convicted of that unless there's somebody they trafficked these girls to. So
Right.
who are those people they trafficked them to? You know they got to exist, otherwise these two would have never gotten convicted of those crimes. So
Exactly.
your question is perfect. It's one I've asked too.
Mhm.
Why has nobody that's been part and party to this whole situation, been involved in this situation, even been investigated? Why? There's only two reasons: rich and powerful. Those are the only
Mhm.
two reasons, because you know they have to exist. We've got videos of them and pictures of them. And Prince Andrew lost his whole fucking title because
Yeah.
he was pictured with them. And I can only imagine what kind of other pictures the royal family actually has to verify what happened.
Well, this is the thing. You got to hand it to the Brits. They're the only ones who've taken action. They're the
Yeah.
only ones who have made somebody with that kind of notoriety and power accountable. Nobody else has been.
And the
Dershowitz?
reason and
Nope.
the reason the royals did it is because they didn't want the stink on them. They're just pushing away the rotten meat so it doesn't affect them.
Exactly. You know, it's not like Prince ex Prince Andrew is going to miss a meal. You know,
No.
it's merely a prestige thing more than anything, and he has to live in a different place than he was living, and so forth and so on. But he's still going to be basically able to fly anywhere he wants to. Well, maybe not.
Yeah,
Maybe
maybe
nobody will
not.
want him, you know. But anybody, I have to say it, and anybody who took advantage of that situation where young women were available to be exploited for their pleasure needs to be in prison. They need to suffer in some way. I'll let the
The,
courts decide. But as you pointed out, the courts have convicted two people, Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and they have done it based on evidence. Grand juries indicted, other juries convicted, and they were sentenced. You know, and that tells you that the evidence is there to convict a lot more people.
there's no other way to explain it. If you're trafficking, somebody's got to be the person that's receiving uh, whatever it is you're trafficking, and that's exactly right. Do you think the oversight committee now is been kind of waiting a little bit, because we know they have 95,000 photos.
Yeah.
Uh, they've told us that some of these photos are absolutely disturbing,
Well,
and
I thought the
people.
Lolita one was pretty damn disturbing.
Yeah, no, it was pretty disturbing, and I think it's steadily going to get worse. But here's what people have to understand: we got to get all the files out. We got to get all the files out, and I agree with you. But with regards to Donald Trump and taking him down, all we need is one picture,
Yeah.
one fucking picture, or one
Hmm.
document, or both, and that's all it takes. And as I said, if we can get Donald Trump out of the way, this stuff will be flowing like a fucking river. Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel are involved in a massive cover up to keep this hidden, and they should be prosecuted for such. I don't, Donald Trump claims to have immunity and such, but I don't know that covering up
No.
a crime would fit under that immunity, because that's not a presidential duty.
But not only that, the crimes were committed when he wasn't president, although they may have been some committed while he was president the first time. We
Yeah,
don't know, or while he was running, or whatever. But the crimes are no way related to the presidency. The cover up would be. But remember, that's what got Nixon. I mean, he
right.
resigned, of course. He was not convicted, but he would have been, which is why he
That's what got
resigned.
John. That's what got John Mitchell too, the AG.
That's right, the cover up. And this is the thing to remember, that, as you say, it is the cover up. But I think, and that will get Trump, I hope, and Bondi and the others. But all the others who are implicated here must be indicted and also tried and also punished.
You know, the whole thing with the Epstein things, I have to wonder, and I looked this up, and I guess in some cases it would be, in other cases it wouldn't be, and there's some, but in many of the crimes, there's a possibility they're beyond the statute of limitations. There are exceptions to that, but at the very least, um, and if that's all we could get, I'd be happy with it, is just exposing everything and everybody and let the chips fall where they may. If a Bill Gates is exposed of being involved in criminal activity, if he's beyond the statute of limitation, the world needs to know who the fuck he is. And
Yeah.
then we can see how that affects. We saw what happened with Disney when they took off Jimmy Kimmel. Same thing could happen to a Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg or whoever might be involved in some nefarious shit.
Well, this is the thing. There is a morals clause pretty much in every that every CEO, every person like that has to adhere to by their board of directors or whatever, that they can be terminated because of. And I would like to see Bill Gates taken away if he's guilty. If he's guilty, he may not be. If he's guilty, and Bezos and anybody else who's involved in this. Who's the guy, the English guy that we saw in the pictures? You know, he's the Nike guy and uh,
Oh, the Nike.
or the, you know, he has an airline and he's oh shoot,
Branson.
Branson,
Branson.
right? Okay, he's a good example too. He could be removed. He could be thrown out of his own company by his board of directors for moral turpitude. All of these guys could. They could serve. They could suffer a huge financial reversal that their own people could level against them, and which they probably would do in order for their companies to survive in some way. That needs to happen. There needs to be some sort of retribution here if
So do
they're
you think
guilty.
if there's some fucking around with these files and releasing them, do you think things ramp up with the Epstein estate and or the oversight committee releasing more videos and
Oh,
more?
absolutely. I think, and I think that will spur them. They'll keep doing that, even if they're slow walking the actual files, which I expect that they will do. We'll see. It's not going to go away. It's unfortunate it's such a distraction, and he's being able to get away with other crap because they're so focused on that.
I
But
wonder.
I will say this, morally speaking, this is justified so that these women, these young children who were abused, get some sort of resolution, and I would hope restitution.
You know, people will DM me or send me notes and they'll say, "You said young women, it's young girls." You have to understand, you have to understand the idea of saying that young girls are being abused and raped is so hard for a normal fucking person to say. You
Yeah.
want to couch it a little bit so that it isn't so fucking harsh. I realize it is harsh. We know the whole point of this is because it's underage kids. So if somebody says these young women, it's not trying to diminish who these girls were. It's just hard to fucking say that over and over again. Apparently isn't a problem for people that are tied to Jeffrey Epstein, but it is hard. Don't get on my shit or Ed shit about you said young women and it's children. We know it's fucking children. It's just hard to keep saying that all the
Literally.
time. And our minds immediately go to soften it. So just
Yeah.
fucking back off.
Well, that's why I'm trying to train myself to say it that way, but because I understand that it is a trigger uh, to particularly to women
Yeah.
that we have to remember these young girls, these children had no power here. They could not say no. They could not in any way defend themselves, and they had no recourse.
Well, and you know, the other part of it too is another bit of culpability has to be given to their parents because
Yeah.
they allowed this. I mean, I have a granddaughter. She's 14 years old, and somebody says, "Oh, she's got a great opportunity. We're going to fly her to an island, and she's going to
Mhm.
do all." No, motherfucker, that's not going to happen. And if you try, I'm going to fucking kill you.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. In some cases they didn't have parents. They were
Well, yeah,
a lot
true. There
of
was
them. A
yeah.
lot of them were probably, as is the case with a lot of people in prison, is that they went straight from child protective services and the foster care system into prison, into homelessness, then into prison.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so these girls happen to have a measure of beauty that Epstein and Maxwell recognized and befriended them, and then moved them into this activity, which they could then not escape.
Well, and that, you get some kid that maybe doesn't have parents or is homeless, like is in at least one of the cases. And these kids are struggling. They don't know what to do. They're not in a position to do anything. And some nice lady or nice man comes up and says, we really like you. We're going to help you out. We're going to make sure your
Mhm.
life's not tough anymore. We make sure you have the education and the money you need. And what 14-year-old kid or 13-year-old kid isn't going to try to save their life by accepting the kindness of others? Little do they know they're evil motherfuckers and they're going to take advantage. But you can't blame a 13 or 14-year-old kid just trying to survive. They were vulnerable. These people were predators. They took advantage of that vulnerability and they committed egregious crimes.
Yeah, and the apparatus, depending on where you may be of the justice system, may not be geared in any way toward holding people accountable who are exploiting the children. I forget the state this happened in exactly, or the names or something, but there's this oaf of a kid who's like 17, and he was bringing these girls into his house, raping them, strangling them. And while his mother was home and she heard them screaming and did nothing, they arrest this kid. They put him in court, and they rig a plea deal where he's tried as a juvenile, and it gets to go free. One of his victims is paraplegic now, uh, and he did this to at least two, maybe more, and he walks free because the judge and the prosecutors agreed on this plea deal. That's insane. It happens every fucking day, though.
Yeah, and it's funny. We keep talking about these girls that have been abused in this situation. There were adult women, maybe young
Yeah.
adult women, but adult women that were abused too. But more and more, I'm hearing about something you don't hear about at all much up to this point is that there were young
Boys.
boys and young men that were involved in this shit. It's interesting we don't hear about that. And that may be the thing that there is their ultimate shame. They maybe don't have a problem with an old man with a young girl, but that gets exposed. And now they're freaking out because of how they feel about the LGBTQ people and stuff. Pedophilia isn't about sexuality.
No.
It's about power. It's about
Power.
control. It's about some freakish fucking mental problem. Um, but there almost has to have been some young boys and young men involved in that. You look at the people that showed up, people like Peter Thiel, who's an acknowledged gay man.
Yeah.
What interest would he have in
Which
girls?
we must say does not make you a pedophile.
No, 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 not at all. Not at all. In fact, most pedophiles might
Right.
identify as heterosexual.
They mostly do.
And so,
And Republican.
and Republican too. Yeah. That does seem to be the case, doesn't it?
It does. It does. I mean, there's hundreds of memes every day letting us know just that. There are always a coach or a youth pastor or a pastor or in some way involved in politics. And there they are, every day. There is a meme that's been going around for years since Trump ran the first time, claiming that he paid millions of dollars to parents of children years ago, and some
Yeah.
of them were boys. The
I've heard
settlements
that
are
too.
apparently on the books.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and I've tried to investigate it, and I haven't found any evidence of it.
Nor have I.
I don't, I don't know that it's true. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. That's the one thing that I think is going to amaze people when Donald Trump is out of power and he can no longer hide. There will be tax records. There will be school records. There will be crimes that he committed that we had no idea of. There's going to be just a cesspool dump because Donald Trump, everybody loved to build him up, but they love tearing people down. And when they're at that point where they're tearing Donald Trump down, they are going to decimate him because there's so much to take from his background, his horrible behavior, his criminal behavior, his corruption. Once this is done for Donald Trump, there ain't going to be much left of him because people will take joy in ripping him apart.
Well, I certainly hope so. I'd love to see him torn apart by wild animals, be honest with you. But a crowd will do.
You sound like my wife there. She was there was somebody she knew, a relative that she never got along with. This person treated my wife horribly all of her life. Um, and this person doesn't live that far from us, but a little ways away from us. And they live alone and they have some dogs. And my wife says, you know, I hope they just have a stroke and die on the kitchen floor. And I go, well, that's kind of dark. But then my wife takes it a step farther. She goes, I hope they die on the floor. And I hope she's left there and her dogs eat her. I go, wow, it wasn't necessary to go that far.
Go,
You
Cindy.
isn't death enough? Yeah, you don't fuck off piss off a woman. They'll fuck you up. I tell you, I've been married
Oh.
42 years. I've been bobbing and weaving for 42 years. And I think
Well,
that's pretty impressive.
here I am, pontificating, and I'm telling these people are horrible and they should be dealt with. I'm not a saint. But I realize I have shortcomings, and by and large, I try to either make restitution, ask for forgiveness, or whatever when need be, and try to recognize that I am not perfect, that I do have faults and so forth. And it's not out of religion or anything like that. It's just I have a sense of morality that came basically from my parents. I was not churched as a young person, so it has nothing to do with that. It has mostly to do that I kind of came from the underclass. Both my parents had been the sons and daughters of sharecroppers, very disadvantaged in their early years together and so forth. And they built a life for where, when they had reached, they neither of them, well, my mother lived longer than I have, but my father died at 62. But by that time, he had built wealth. He had a
Yeah.
home, he had cars, he could buy food without any trouble. He was able to retire and that sort of thing. So he came a long way in his life, and also, was wounded during World War II and went through the Depression and all of that stuff. So they had a fair play morality that I inherited because they'd seen it from the bottom and they'd seen it from the middle. They didn't get to be trillionaires by any means, but they had moved up. And I realized, and they realized how they did it, and they told me. And I internalized that, and that's where my morality comes from, not from some 6,000-year-old book.
Nobody can claim to be saints, and neither can I. When I was a young man, I had more testosterone than brains, which is typically the case of young men. The difference is, um, I never did anything intentionally to hurt somebody, and I took every day as a kind of a learning experience. I presume morally, mentally, intellectually, I've gotten better at 65 than I was when I was 45, and then when I was 25. That's the thing is as long as you understand you don't want to hurt people and you're learning it along the way, that's the best you can hope for. My problem is 70-year-old men, 70-year-old
Mhm.
men still trying to abuse young girls or women. And I'm going, fuck, I'm 65 years. When I was 25 years, when I was 25 years old, 90% of what you're thinking about is sex. It comes in one way or another.
Yeah.
Now, when you're 65, that's not the case. It's maybe 10% or 20%. It's just balancing what your mindset is, and your morality has hopefully gotten better over the years. But some of these fucks, they've been so tied up with money and power that they believe they can do anything they want, and it never goes away. They never learn anything. They never get better because no one tells them they have to.
It's, this is the thing. I mean, I just exchanged a couple of words this morning with a guy who was the meme said Elon Musk got a chunk of money for something. I forget what it was. It's government money, right?
Yeah, right.
And the guy put up he earned it, and I put no, he didn't. His father owned an emerald mine. He sent him to the U.S. to go to school. He immediately dropped out of school. He should have been deported at that point. He started a business, which he shouldn't have been, or he bought into a business. Let's be honest here. And and ever since then, he's been on the government teat in one way or another. He didn't earn it. No, he bought it, and he bought it, and he used nefarious means to do it. He should have been deported. His citizenship should be revoked, and he should be sent out of here because he was illegal.
Well, the business he bought into that started getting him rich was PayPal.
Yeah.
I think Peter Thiel was part of PayPal too.
A couple of Nazis moved to the U.S. and make it good. Yeah.
Right. And so they made money and they sold that off, and then they started selling off. And when Ed says he's been living off the government teat up to this point, understand that the vast majority of Elon Musk's wealth comes from governmental contracts. And now that he has his boy in charge of the government, it's just enhanced even more. He isn't making most of his money off selling Tesla cars.
No.
He's making most of his money off his fucking Wi-Fi, his satellite shit, and all that stuff. And that's coming from the government, which means it's coming from fucking us. So
exactly.
The idea that he's earned this shit is ridiculous. He got on the track where rich people help rich people, and they just perpetuate this grift that's constantly going on. And Elon Musk is a product of fucking government grift.
That's exactly it. So no, he didn't earn it. No, he just helping out Trump got him on the gravy train even more. You know who else is on the gravy train now? Donald Trump Jr., who somehow or other has a drone company that's just got $100 million loan from the federal government. Why? Because of his expertise in drones, because of his well-known business acumen? No, because he's Trump's kid.
Well, exactly. And anybody else that would have done that, the Republicans would be in an uproar. Now, when you talk about Elon Musk, we can only go to see what he's like by going to the Trump administration. Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, comes out. She basically said that Elon Musk is a ketamine addicted weirdo who sleeps in an office in a sleeping bag.
Yeah,
which is true. What did you think about that whole situation?
Did she get played? It boggles my mind. Somebody may have made her feel comfortable. Maybe she didn't realize some of the things she said, or maybe she felt invulnerable. Let's face it, she's got Trump's balls in her hand.
She does. You know what I didn't realize? I just heard it the other day. You know who her father is? Pat Summerall.
Really?
The former broadcaster, former football player. I didn't know that either. But Susie Wiles said that Trump had a personality of an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Said that J.D. Vance was a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
Says that Elon Musk was a ketamine addicted weirdo. She had some things to say about other people too. Now, when we first heard that, we thought, oh my God, she's going to get ravaged by the Trump administration. You don't do that. But that's not what happened. They circled around her, and Donald Trump says, well, I guess I can see that. And JD says, well, I'm kind of a conspiracy theorist, but I only believe in the true ones. Um, I have a thought as to why she didn't get beat up. Well, what do you think? Why do you think they protected her?
I do think that she's been there. She's like his accountant. She's been part of the family for so long that they're afraid of her. I mean, they have two options: leave her alone or kill her. Now I do believe they've done that. And Jeffrey Epstein did not hang himself.
No, no, none of it makes sense. Well,
I
here's my
don't think
theory.
Ivana Trump fell down the stairs either.
Yeah, that seems weird. And we don't really know what happened because she was cremated and buried real quick.
Mm-hmm.
But my theory with this woman is that she's the chief of staff, and for all intents and purposes, in the White House, the chief of staff is the
Runs.
boss.
They run the show. Yeah.
They run the show. The president is the figurehead. They interact with the president. Um, but if you notice with Susie Wiles, she's not your typical chief of staff. She kind of lets everybody do what they want.
Yeah.
Lets everybody do what they want and just agrees with Donald Trump. She said what she said in the article, but then she said he's the greatest president ever when she was talking to the press.
Yeah.
I personally think that everybody around Susie Wiles realized they have it good because a chief of staff could be a taskmaster, could be an
Yeah.
asshole. We've had them in the past in the first
Yeah.
term. And they're thinking, she lets us do whatever the fuck we want. She doesn't control anything. Let's keep her in that spot. And I really think that may have something to do with it.
Now, it could be. I sometimes I think Trump. There are people who know Trump,
Yeah.
not just the public face of Trump, but they know Trump, and I think he fears those people. Either that, or he has a level of comfort with them that he's able to. Yeah, you know what I'm like. Yeah, you got my number, but you're part of it, kind
Well,
of
it's fun.
thing.
It's funny. That's exactly right. And I have gotten that sense about narcissists before. There are certain people they defer to. Donald Trump has Vladimir Putin, maybe
Mm-hmm.
Viktor Orban, maybe Kim Jong Un. Because of their power, he feels like, he pays homage to them. Um, I think that he's probably that way with Susie Wiles because these are people who have figured him out, know how to manipulate him. And it's so easy to manipulate somebody like Donald Trump. And the first thing is to not be fearful of them, but use what triggers them or what controls them against them.
Mm-hmm.
Susie Wiles, probably smart enough to figure that out. Vladimir Putin, certainly smart enough to figure it out. There are people like that to the point where somebody like Mondami figured him out.
Yeah.
And he was his best buddy, even though he talked shit about him leading up to that whole meeting. Donald Trump isn't hard to figure out. He's like any other narcissist, but everybody else around him is terrified of him, which is where he wants them to be. And as long as you're terrified of him, he can control you and you will allow him to make you do anything. It's the people that figure it out and push back and say, fuck you. They're the ones he's afraid of because he's a coward.
Well, there's another narcissist we both knew. I'm not going to name him. We worked with him, and he was verbally abusive to a lot of people pretty much on a daily basis, and very opinionated, and pretty lazy too. He got paid money for doing essentially nothing except sitting at a desk. But I noticed with him that whenever his wife was around, none of that was there. It went away. And it may be that it's almost like a marriage. We know that Trump is not really married to Melania. I mean, there's no marriage there. That's a transaction.
Yeah.
But yet he has this relationship with Susie Wiles that I would characterize that way. And part of it is you cannot live with somebody or spend a great deal of time with somebody intimately, and I don't mean sexually, intimately, that you don't know that they know you and you can't bullshit them. And that it works with with you and your wife, me and my wife, and anybody who's been in a couple for a long time. And so that may be some of that's going on there too, that they know they can be called out at any time because your wife knows your weaknesses, mine knows mine, or the areas where we may put up a front or something like that. We can't do it with them. And maybe you can't do that with Susie.
That could be. Now, the person you were talking about that we work with, I'm sure we're thinking of the same person. Young
Mhm.
man who didn't know fuck all about fuck all that was put in a management position.
Oh no, different guy.
Different
I'm
guy?
talking I'm talking about a guy who you worked with before the station. Who he was the engineer.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know what
I
I'm
got
saying?
along with him. I got along with him better because I really didn't work in him and I knew him a long time. The other guy I was thinking about
Yeah, I know
is
who you mean.
similar.
Yeah.
I told him one time, I said, I don't know what's lower, your intelligence or your talent, but they're fucking both bad. And he didn't appreciate that. But
Mhm.
I was at a restaurant one time. The gentleman's name starts with a T, so you know who I'm talking about.
Oh, I know who
Did
you
not
mean.
like Do not like that motherfucker. To this day, I do not like him. Not even for what he and I experienced, what he did to other people. But after I went through the thing and I fucking retired on the spot and I told him to fuck off, basically, I'm sitting at a restaurant with my wife and he comes sauntering in. You know, he's one of these cosplay part-time EMT guys, so he thinks he's a sexy fireman and he's a fucking nerd, is what he is. But he walks up and he goes, "Well, hello, Mike." And at the time, my wife says, "I've been married to you 35 years. I've never seen the look on your face that you gave this guy." And he's standing up there trying to be pleasant. "Hey, how you doing?" I looked up at him. I go, "What in the fuck do you want?" And he kind of stood back and his wife stood back. And I said, "We're trying to have fucking dinner here. Why don't you go someplace as far away from me as you could fucking get?" And he wasn't expecting that. And my wife says, "I'm not scared of you at all, but that moment, I've never seen that before." And I just have a deep dislike for narcissists and people. And the other guy you're talking about, um, yeah, yeah, he could be that way, but I've known him. I knew him since a long time, so I kind of stood at the same level he was because I didn't
Mhm.
work anything that would be underneath him, and I pushed back as much as he did, and so we kind of had a more peer type thing. At least that's how I felt, or maybe that's just the way I act with these people. But that business, the radio business, full of narcissists, full of
Yeah.
fucking egos. It was people say, what did you like about working in radio? I go, nothing. Other
Yeah.
than I got to do what I want to do. I said, you have to understand, fucking radio business is full of people that are basically carnies with good voices. That's
Yeah, that's
basically
pretty
what
much
it is.
it. That's the lifestyle unless you finally get a niche that you like. But oh,
Yeah.
yeah, my experience, we had some epic battles about things, but I didn't because I had to work with this guy, I didn't point out that he was a stone racist and that he was misogynist to the core. And those were the two main problems, right? I
Yeah.
mean, he had
That's an
no
issue.
respect for women and he had hatred for minorities, essentially, which was a real problem considering where we worked. But at any rate,
And that's rampant, though. I mean, that's what people
yeah,
have to
yeah.
understand. If you go back to the 60s, 70s, even the 80s, that was just accepted behavior.
Mhm.
Nobody got shamed for saying the N word. Nobody got shamed. And I'm not saying that was a good time. That's just how fucked up it was.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I will say this: he had that ability, which my father also had, and a number of men of that generation, to be racist toward a group and have buddies who were black or Hispanic or Jewish or whatever.
That's exactly
They
right.
they could condemn the group, but have a personal relationship with somebody that was beyond friendly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I had a father that was an absolute racist, but if I had black friends or
Mhm.
uh, athletes or people of note or people he's working with, he could be sweet as pie with them. It's reminiscent of the very bad joke is when does a black person become the N-word? It's when they leave the room.
Mhm.
And that was always fucked up to me. You sit there to my face and you say racist shit, and then when people come up, you don't have the integrity to stick with what you believe. You have to phony it up. That's the one thing I will say about you and me. Whether we're on this podcast, whether we're on the street or in our house with our families, we're pretty much who we are.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to fake it for anybody. And these narcissists, that's why Donald Trump got to where he is, because dumb people bought the bullshit. They couldn't see behind the facade. People like you and I, and people who listen to this podcast, anybody with above or average or above intelligence can see the bullshit. But some of these people that are sitting here today still cannot see the problem with Donald Trump. And it's everywhere.
Yeah, and I don't get it. Let me just speak to those people right now. Um, and not the people who are being deceived, the deceivers. Everybody knows. You're not
Everybody knows.
fooling anybody. Everybody knows you're an asshole, okay? And whether out of fear or whatever, they're not calling you on it on a daily basis. But everybody knows.
Yeah. That's why some people, I have I have people that like me and people that don't like me. Um, and I'm fine with that. I don't worry about people who don't like me because I don't adjust for the situation. I just tell the truth that I know. I may be blunt about it. I may be in your face about it, but at least you know what you're getting is truthful. I'm not going to cater to somebody I don't like, but I'm not going to not like somebody for some stupid reason like aesthetics. It's going to be because of who you are. And you get no extra extra sway if you're an asshole.
No, exactly. So
Yeah, it's
Trump is a major asshole, and I cannot believe the number of people who can't see that or find a way to try to write that off. That's all he is. That's all he's ever been. That's all he will ever be. He
now,
has no intelligence or morals.
people keep talking about the Republican Party and Donald Trump, the cracks that are starting to form. Uh, do you sense that too? I mean, do you think that Donald Trump and the Republicans are losing a little purchase here because of the economy, because of the polling and all this stuff? Do you feel like we're finally on that side where they're not getting stronger, they're getting weaker every day?
What I am seeing is an old metaphor: sinking ship, rats.
Right, right.
They recognize what's happening. They run out of the coal mine before the collapse.
Right. Well, isn't it surprising to you, though, when you're dealing with people, adults that are allegedly intelligent, that either they're just now seeing it or haven't yet to see it? I would have thought after the election, after they got what they needed from Donald Trump, they would have started bolting because you want to get as far away from Donald Trump as you can. And it's seemingly the only person in the Republican Party would be the only two Republican Party members that want to get away from Donald Trump as fast as they can is Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Those are
Yeah.
the only two that are saying, fuck you, this is crazy. But all of them still stick to them. They got to see that it's dying on the vine. Why do they stick so close?
Well, a lot of them are getting ready to not run again. You know,
Yeah,
so they're folding their tents and slipping away into the night that way. That way they don't have to forget Trump, and maybe they can make a comeback. I guess they figure, or something like that. But they're just going to resign. They're just or not run again, and let somebody else do it. They've made their money, and let's face it, the best thing we could ever do to fix this country is to not let Congress people and senators do insider trading
right.
or
Well,
or
that's
have
first and
any
foremost.
sort of financial gain. If they make a penny beyond their $174,000 salary, they should be penalized. I mean, if they still have a business of their own, it needs to be highly scrutinized. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene supposedly has a construction business. She got a large PPP loan during
Yeah.
COVID
Yeah.
and then voted to not have to pay it back.
You
So
know,
did
there's
Matt
one
Gates. So did many other Congress people.
the one politician that got away from Donald Trump quicker than anybody, and I will give him credit for that. Paul Ryan, the former
Yeah.
Speaker of the House, guy from Wisconsin, he saw what was happening with Donald Trump and he separated himself from Donald Trump right away. Smart idea. But I will tell you this, if Paul Ryan enters back into politics again, first thing I'm saying, Trump humping piece of shit, you let him get away with shit. You can never live that down.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I guarantee you Paul Ryan will be in the running for president when Trump dies.
Yeah,
And
no
I
doubt.
do
No
think
doubt.
he will. I do not think Trump will finish out this term, by the way. So we'll have a year or so of, or maybe what, maybe 3 years of J.D. Vance. If he isn't impeached, he possibly could be. He needs to be investigated for buying up land of foreclosed farmers who are losing their land because they can't pay the loans because of Trump's tariffs.
Right, right, exactly.
There's lots
And,
of dirty dealing going on there with him.
and there are farmers now that are realizing that they've been fucked by Donald Trump. The bailouts are bullshit. You know, even if he gets them the $12 billion bailout, that's about a fourth of what they actually need. So it won't do anybody any good other than the big time corporate farms. The little people will all be sacrificed, just as we said they would. Uh, it's just amazing to me that it's taken to this point, to the point of disaster where they're going, hey, something's wrong here. You went through a whole fucking term. You had to be bailed out. You voted for him again. And now you're surprised that you're dying on the vine now? It's just the stupidity. If you're a businessman, you've got to look reasonably ahead. It can't be an emotional thing. Well, I like Trump because it's business. You got to
Mhm.
figure out what your business is going to benefit from and not benefit from. And they just apparently can't fucking grasp it until you take everything away from them.
Um, Absolutely. And I have some sympathy for them, but not a lot.
No, I don't.
Because, as you say, this is mostly going to benefit corporate farms because that's
Right,
mostly what's left.
right.
But to be honest, I remember Bassett or whatever his name is, the Treasury Secretary, talking to some farmer saying, "Well, I'm in the soy business too. Business, he invests in something. It's not the same. It's not like his income is on the line. You're going to
Yeah.
lose a few. He was going to lose a few bucks, but he will benefit from that. He'll get some of that money."
No, he'll buy up, well, whoever he's invested in will buy up the farms that can't survive. And then when the soybeans come back, he'll be a fucking billionaire. I wanted to talk about the healthcare situation because this is really kind of fucked up.
Yeah,
Um, we know that they have to try to get an extension to the ACA subsidies, and the Republicans, for whatever reason, Donald Trump on down, do not want that. And there's only one outcome if they don't extend the subsidies, and that is that people will be outpriced or just lose their health care altogether, or they'll pay 3, 4 times as much. It's going to affect 24 million people and probably more before it's all said and done. Um, the
it's also
Republicans,
going to it will affect the providers because they won't be getting the income from the people spending the money that the insurance would reimburse. It's going to close
exactly.
hospitals and nursing homes too.
Well, it's going to hurt insurance companies too.
Yeah,
Less people
absolutely.
getting health
Mm.
insurance. What the fuck are you going to do? And so um, they take a bill that basically all it does. There's nothing else on the bill. It extends the ACA subsidies for 3 years. Republicans flat turn it down. They
Mhm.
say no. Okay, so now everybody's rushing around as we get toward the end of the deadline, and now they say, well, we'll put something in the House, just a bill to extend the ACA subsidies. Mike Johnson says, I'm not going to put it on there. Mike Johnson is signing off on the deaths and the pain of 24 million people. There's no other way to look at it. That's exactly what he's doing. So they do the discharge petition, and they can go around him. Somebody was talking to Jamie Rashkin one time and said, what do you think is going to happen? Well, we'll do the discharge petition. We'll get the vote. We'll see what happens there. And he said, unless Mike Johnson sends him home early.
Yeah, which he did.
Which he absolutely did. So he didn't have to vote on it. Now, the deadline is December 31st.
Yeah.
They don't plan to be back till January 6th.
Right.
So these things will be, the subsidies will be taken off. Now, Mike Lawler, the Republican representatives, he's up in arms. We got to do this. We got to do this. Well, let me tell you something about Mike Lawler. Mike Lawler could have signed on that discharge petition a month ago. He did it on the 12th or the 13th, knowing that they could take 7 days before they put it up for a vote, which is what Mike Johnson is using to justify going on fucking vacation early. So now it's pushed out to January 6th, and everybody says, well, what are you going to do then? Are people stuck with those prices for a year? No, we'll have to work with a health insurance, and we'll have to work with this and that and get them to extend the enrollment and all this stuff. This is all unnecessary bullshit, because extending the subsidies didn't add new money, didn't cost more money. It's just to keep things status quo the way it's been.
Yeah. Also, the vote was taking place when Mike Johnson gabbled.
Oh, was
the
it?
House. Yes, they were taking the vote when he abruptly gabbled the meeting or the session done and sent everybody home. He saw he was going to lose, and
yeah,
bang, bang, which he is allowed to do, which is insane. The speaker has way too much power.
Well,
they need to address that. They really need to address that.
And he's incompetent. Well, and it's almost a certainty that it will pass the House, because they already got the 218 votes. So it will pass the House. The question is by how much. Once these people are put on the line and on the record, will they vote to take people's health care away, or will they vote for it? Will it be like the Epstein Files things where they all just say, fuck it, I can't piss off my constituents? But then it's got to go to the Senate. The Senate already turned it down. Yeah. This very same thing. They've already voted against it. But say they adjust it. I was talking to Eric, and he was saying, well, it won't be 1 year, because then it's going to affect the midterms. And if it's 3 years, it's going to affect the midterms. So if they compromise to something, it's probably going to be 2 years.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But when this is all said and done, if the House passes it and the Senate passes it, say that all happens, the best of things happen, Donald Trump still got to fucking sign it. And who knows if he will.
Or they have to override it, which they won't. And that way they have to blame each other. They'll go, well, we passed it. He wouldn't sign it.
Yeah. Well, that's it. They're just passing the buck. Do you think the Republicans are cool with letting these subsidies go by the wayside, let people lose by tens of millions of people losing their health care, or put in a position where they got to make a choice of either living or paying for their health care and deciding to gamble for a year? I've heard people say they're doing that. Do you think the Republicans are really cool with that happening?
Yeah, because I think they're all scum. I really do believe that the Republicans, by and large, have gotten anyone with any integrity. They have forced them out, primaried them, whatever they did, brought the hammer down on them, and everybody still there is just a sycophant or an idiot, which some of them frankly are, or they're owned somehow by Trump, blackmail or whatever. So yeah, I think they're between a rock and a hard place here. They basically turned it down, saying that it was to give illegal immigrants health care. That was their story, and they stuck with it, which is bullshit, because it's illegal. We all know that. And every reporter every talking head who did not say that, every time a Republican said that, is guilty just right along with them, because they should have said it. Every time Ted Cruz or whoever said, well, they just want to give it to illegal immigrants and make them citizens so they'll vote for Democrats. That's a lie. No, that's a lie. Move along, move along. We don't need your bullshit. That's what needs to happen. Now they're pushing their plan, which they've had what 11 years to come up
Dean.
with, and not one thing. These medical savings accounts that they want to give you $1,500. That's the upper limit I've heard, which is nothing. You
No,
can use that for your co-pays and bullshit, but no, you don't have a $10 co-pay when you're on your own.
no.
That's because the insurance company negotiates that $10 copay. Without the insurance company, God knows what they can charge, whatever they want. You
Well, yeah,
know?
exactly. And you don't have any leverage because you're an individual. Um, put it this way, they want to give you $1,500. Let's call it even $2,000.
Yeah,
I saw a report where this young couple has young kids, maybe one or two young kids, and their um, insurance is going to go from $500 or $600 a month to $2,500.
yeah,
Now, it's not a question of tightening your belt. It's not a question of cutting out unnecessary things. They literally cannot afford it. They have no choice but to not have health care. That's the only choice they have. And if Donald Trump says, well, I'll give them $2,000, well, that's fine. But your health insurance has gone up by $1,500. So after the first month and a half, that extra money you were given doesn't mean a fucking thing. You've got another
no.
10 months. You've got to come up with more money than you can afford. And that's the thing. 15 years they've had 15 years they've hated Obamacare, and for 15 years they have yet to come up with any other option. And it's because they don't want an option. They don't give a fuck about people having health care. They just assume they don't have health care. So now they're getting it. I just don't understand how they can't see that this is going to be devastating for a lot of people in their own states, especially their states, and they don't think this is going to impact them, or are they
Because
just ready to,
they're
they're
not
just not
bright
going to run?
people. They're only people who are used
Apparently.
to taking orders from this figurehead Trump and Mike Johnson and whoever else. Um, what people forget, and this is another thing reporters should bring up, the Affordable Care Act, ACA, also known as Obamacare, it's the same fucking thing. If you don't know that, you're an idiot. Okay, it's the same thing. It was originally written at the Heritage Institute, the Heritage
Right.
Foundation. That's where it came from, right? And it was a giveaway to the insurance companies. It empowered the insurance companies. It put them in the catbird seat in so many ways. So naturally, they loved it. But then the Democrats looked at it and said, we can make this work. We'll put in a public option and we'll do this and we'll get rid of pre existing conditions and we'll make you can't ever be charged more than this amount in your lifetime, whatever. They did their tweaks to it. And then to get it through, they dropped the public option, which they should not have done. They should have said, okay, we can't get it through now. We'll just move on.
Right. Right.
But we're not going to go soft on this. So that was a Democratic failure there. But this was a Republican plan. Now they're trying to demonize these insurance companies that they basically helped create and empower. We don't want to give the money to the insurance company. We'll give it to the people to give to the insurance company.
Exactly. Exactly. I think we're at that stage now with the damage that Donald Trump has done to the Republican Party and this country. Come 2028, this is a very opportune time. Let's stop talking about Obamacare. Let's talking about the ACA. We need people angry enough, motivated enough, and just go for universal health care. Everybody fucking else has it. I don't care about Obamacare after 2028. We need universal health care. And if you don't like it, suck my dick.
Yeah, that's it exactly because it will. I put up a thing about. I put up a meme about. All we'd have to do is go back to what we had before Nixon. It
Right.
certainly wasn't perfect, but we didn't have these gigantic insurance companies running everything. They
Right.
couldn't make a profit, so they were like less interested. It was a sideline for them. It was not their main thing, right? My family never had insurance until my father finally got a union job. So he was in his 50s. That's the first time he and my mother had insurance. I got insurance when I started working at the post office. I was approaching 30 at that time.
Right.
Didn't need it. I went to the doctor. I sat in the waiting room for however long it took. Sometimes it was immediate. Sometimes if there was a flu going around or something, it'd be 30 minutes. I'd go in. You'd say you got the flu. Here's something for your symptoms. Go home. Drink lots of water. Stay in bed. I break my arm. He'd set it in his office. That kind of stuff. I'd pay $5, $10, something like
Yeah.
that. It was a cash and carry basis. Then they came up with this stuff they called major medical, and it was for like if you got cancer or something. Usually it came through a job. Even in radio, I had major medical,
Right.
and starting with my second job. Then when I wound up at the station where we worked for, we had pretty good insurance, and it was provided by the district that we worked for. I paid more than I should have. I paid the same thing as people who had four kids because there was only one. I could be a single or I could have family. So if I
Right.
wanted to insure my wife, I had to go with a family plan, which was the same that anybody paid if they had 50 kids or one or none, if a spouse, right?
Yeah.
That was a big difference. If I had been single or if my wife had had other insurance, which we eventually did, by the way, I could, I could have gotten $25 premium per month
Right. Right.
as a single. It was 320 some dollars per family. That's a big
Right.
difference, and it progressed from there. But we did not have to have insurance for the most part during the first half of, well, the first quarter of my life anyway. Nobody had it. We still
No.
managed to live,
Yeah.
but that was
Well,
because it didn't cost you an arm and a leg just to be seen by a doctor, or for
yeah.
medicine was a buck maybe, you know.
And if you want to know why we don't have universal health care or why things cost so much, is because the lobbyists, the pharmaceutical, the hospitals, the medical lobbyists, and the insurance, especially the insurance. This is why everything costs so much. They always say to us, "Well, if we get government involved, it'd be too expensive and it won't work
Bullshit.
right." That's bullshit. I'm on Medicare. It's working fine. It's
uh,
working
if,
fine.
yeah, if I wanted to call my doctor and get an appointment, it would be at least 2 weeks, maybe longer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you have to wait in Canada. Jesus, you do here, you have to
Well,
wait here, you know.
well, that's why
But
I'm saying that's why I'm saying the real fight should be henceforth is to get universal health care. We're not listening to the bullshit. Everybody else does it. We're the richest country in the world. Lesser countries can do it and get by with it just fine. There's no reason we can't, other than there's some fucking game going on between Congress and the lobbyists. So we just got to push that fight. And people said, "Why do you care? You have Medicare." Yeah, but I have kids. I
yeah,
have I have grandkids. And I have a fucking soul, for fuck's sake.
that's it. And Medicare doesn't pay everything. People don't realize that until they get to Medicare, right?
Yeah.
I have another policy in addition to Medicare, which Medicare pays for. It doesn't cost me anything extra. It comes out of my Social Security, right?
Right.
But you either have to have a supplemental policy or you have to have um, something else anyway,
Right.
right? And that keeps changing and going up, costing more, covering less. Well, it's not costing more because it didn't cost me anything, but it covers less. I was looking at my plan for this year, which they didn't send me until 2 days ago, past the deadline where I could have changed, right? And they've reduced what they pay for hospitals. They've reduced what they paid for almost everything across the board. So I'm gonna have to look at something different next year. But if we had universal health care, you have tremendous leverage. Then the people running the universal health care can go to the people who make insulin and say, free ride's over, buddy. It's now $10. Take it or leave it. Nobody's going to take your insulin if you don't reduce the price to where it is affordable. Same thing with procedures.
Now
You can
said
do
something.
that.
You said something. You go, I have Medicare, but I don't really pay it. Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
comes
you
out of your
do.
Social
Social
Security.
Security,
That's the money that you earned,
right,
and the money comes out of that. We do pay for Medicare, and if we want the gap insurance or whatever the fuck you call it,
right.
it's another
Yeah,
$150 a month. If
yeah,
you buy regular Medicare and the gap, it's going to cost you $350 a month, at
right.
least.
Yeah,
And so it's not that, and to put it to this way, if you could make sure that families were paying $350 a month. I mean, universal healthcare doesn't have to be absolutely free. There would be some premiums involved. It's just reasonable premiums. And it makes sense to do it because, like with student loans, we've got millennials and Gen Zs coming up. We want them to have um, income,
yeah,
discretionary income, so they can buy crazy shit like houses and cars. Because if they
yeah.
stop buying that, our economy is fucked. And that's where we are right now.
Well, see, this is the other thing that when I talk about the Epstein files being a distraction and so many things being a distraction, right now, private equity companies and hedge funds are buying up the housing. 19% of the housing sold in the last few months was bought by hedge funds, private equity.
Right.
19%, call it 20. That's a fifth of all housing was bought. What are they going to do with that? Hmm? In some cases, they'll tear them down for the land and build bigger, more expensive houses on it, or they'll just raise the price. I saw
Right.
that one trick they're using is they're buying up, and we saw this happen in Minnesota. I think we were working at the, yeah, I know we were working at the radio station when that happened. There are lakes in the city that have mansions around them
Right.
and corporations were buying those up, paying more so that it raised the cost. And eventually, the people who lived there were saying, we can't afford to live here anymore because the taxes are so high because of
Right.
what the corporations have been paying for these houses. And that's what they want to do with all housing.
Yeah.
I saw a thing where one of the hedge funds bought up 50,000 units, immediately sold them back. They bought them for 400,000. They sold them back to a division of their company because all of these corporations now have many different divisions. They may have insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies and real estate, whatever, right? That's all lumped together. And they sold it back to themselves for a much higher price,
Of course.
thereby raising the value of all of those homes that they had just bought and pricing everybody else out of the market, obviously. They went, I think it was, they went from 400,000 to 700,000
Yeah.
for each unit.
And who gets fucked in the deal? You and I do. That's
You and I do.
typical.
Anybody who lives near there, their taxes just went through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
They're doing this with trailer parks, for God's sake. They come in, they buy the trailer park, they raise the rent so high that people literally abandon the trailer parks, and then they resell them, then do it again.
Yeah. Fucking ridiculous. Well, we're going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. We'll see what happens with the Epstein files. It's pretty much going like I expected, but who knows? Maybe we get lucky and one picture or one document comes out that takes Donald Trump down and then the floodgates open. I hope that's the case. Ed, thanks
This
for
is, yeah,
go
can I
ahead.
say just one thing? When
Sure.
Trump is gone, that's the beginning. We're going
Yeah.
to have a cabinet level position who does nothing but undo what Trump did, whether it's the ballroom fiasco or these plaques he's put on all of the other presidents' pictures in the White House with derogatory comments. All of that has to be scraped off that gold shit he put in the all over the place and plaques and crap like that. That all shit has to come down. We're going to have to repaint and fumigate us, they say. Big time.
No shit. It's Donald Trump has turned the decor of the White House into mid-century pimp is pretty
Yeah.
much what he did. Pretty much what he did. Thank you, Ed, for coming on. I know people look forward to it. Those of you listening, thanks for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day. We will talk to you again tomorrow.